If you're liking the show, check out our Patreon, the Noah Time Patreon. We got perks over there for you. Why not? Link is in the description. Hey, hello, Noah Timers. Welcome back to the show. I don't got any chores for you today or workout stuff. I'm gonna do that later. But figure we could just hang out and chat if you guys are down. If it's the morning and you're looking for some morning motivation meditations, get after it. Go get that. Go get the asses of those dishes. Be yourself. Spread love. Be a positive role model in your community. What else is good stuff that you can do? But get groceries if you need groceries. Get out of bed. I don't know what else self-help can offer other than just all that shit. But there you go. If you needed that, now you can leave. Just kidding. Don't leave, please. My video's been flopping. Oh yeah, today's topic of discussion is how my ADHD got me fired from a job, multiple jobs. Now, I say fired. That might be a slight exaggeration or technical perversion of the truth because I was a freelance video editor, like a music video filmer and editor, and getting fired from a job in that sense is just like canceling a contract for a video, basically, or just having. I'll talk about what happened, but it wasn't like I, was in an office and then someone said, "Get out," and then they say, "Pack your stuff," and they hand you a cardboard box, and I'm dressed as Office Dwight, and I have glasses, and then I'm like, oh, and I have to fill up a box with books and my 1993 Linux computer. It wasn't like that. But basically, in 2017 or 2016, I graduated high school. I went to college. I went to school in Canada at this university called Simon Fraser. I played football. Towards the end of 2016, coming into 2017, I ended up leaving Simon Fraser. I quit football, decided to basically come back home to Washington and recoup and do something different. I think basically I was kind of done with sports, and I didn't want to get a concussion. I've already had a few, and I'm already on the brink in terms of intellectual capacity, so no need to jeopardize that any further. But anyways, I got into filming random shit. I think I started doing random little YouTube videos. Maybe some of them are still public on my channel. I don't think so. The first one I did was actually when the stuff from college was still in my car, and I was driving around. I took my little baby sister to church or something. Oh, it's private, but I'll make it public. If you're watching Noah Time, it's on my main channel. But from that, I think a friend of a friend was like, "Hey, would you ever film a music video?" And it was kind of similar around this time that Lyrical Lemonade, if anyone's familiar with that kind of basically record label, music video production company by Cole Bennett, that was starting to blow up early 2017, kind of mixed with the SoundCloud rap wave. So I started doing that. Basically, I filmed a music video in a gas station, and I used After Effects to do some cute, silly little animations, and it was fun because a lot of that stuff I had done when I was younger. When I was in middle school, I learned a lot of stuff in After Effects to make videos of GoPro videos. I would skateboard and film it with a GoPro, and that was super fun. So I had some experience in that regard. But anyways, I started doing that more, and then I started working with more people, and eventually worked into working. I never worked with big artists or really went through any professional channels. I had a couple contracts with smaller labels to video contracts, this is what you have to do start to finish type things. And I don't know, I was working on the craft, building an artistic perspective, or building a portfolio of attempts to make different styles of art. And a lot of it early on was very derivative. I would see people in the same space make things, and I would kind of try. I don't know, when you're early on, when you're creating stuff like that, it's always going to be derivative. You're going to be a product of your influences until you can really have enough experience to branch off and maintain the stylistic boundaries of a medium while creating something unique. And basically, I think at a certain point, I started to, all the way throughout the process, it would be really hard for me to keep up with projects. I think early on, I was just like, I'm doing stuff. Like, I got this thing. I really am having fun. Let's just do this. And it was kind of like a hyperfixation, more of an obsessive manner. But as soon as it became a regular thing, and as soon as it basically became a job, it wasn't a full-time job because I was like living with my grandma. For a while during that period is when I worked at, or I guess before that, I worked at Papa John's. But then it was more so just like get enough to like pay a little bit in rent, and then I don't know, just kind of fuck around basically, which is a very, uniquely lucky position to be in. I'll always reference that when people ask me, how do you be a YouTuber? I'll say you have to have 3 or 4 years of time to just fuck around. So what was I saying? As I started to work more regularly, and as these projects, I don't know, I was like, ooh, I can charge someone this much money and they'll pay me. That's cool. Let's just charge more. I was very, I don't know, I think capitalism brainwash into wanting to like feel like I'd accomplished something by making more money and charging more. And it's not like anything, insane. It was just like, okay, my first music video, they paid me $50. That was, I had never done a music video, so sure, right? I would have done it for free, basically. And I wouldn't have expected him to pay like anywhere near like the normal rate, or like the average rate for a music video like that. But as I started working more, that became kind of the focus in terms of like putting stuff out and working on these projects in a way that was, I guess, less disconnected from that early drive period of hyperfixation. And that's when it shifted over into procrastination, which I guess brings me to the just topic of ADHD. I was undiagnosed for... silent burp, you're welcome. I was undiagnosed for, for forever until this like late last year. And stuff like that was like, there would be projects where I would go somewhere and film. Like went to Toronto, I went to New York, I went to LA, I was living in Washington. So I was doing these different things. I would film, get, footage, while they're coordinating like, locations and things. And I was never all that good at that. I think directing and coordinating all that things, it's a lot for like one person, and like the regular channels of the music video like industry, you have people around, you have a production coordinator and you have a location scouter and all these different things, but it was just run and gun type stuff. So despite that, I would manage to go to these places and get footage and everything. And that was still kind of a struggle coordinating that, because it's like, I'm kind of forgetting stuff. I'm trying to like, I'm having paralysis while going through this process and while on, set. This one video we did, it was like we rented an Airbnb in like Long Island or somewhere in New York. This one was through management, and they like invited a bunch of like models, and there was all this, just a bunch of different stuff on the set. And it was formal but informal, because it was still like, it was basically a party, but just being filmed. And I mean, I was so overwhelmed. I had a friend there with me who was like a graphic designer. He was doing a lot of the work for the like the album art and stuff like that. And it was so fucking overwhelming. He helped me, and that was super helpful. But I also was filming on like a main camera, and then a Super 8 camera, and then a VHS camera, and I was going to splice all the footage together. And it was kind of like not a complex project per se. It was just like you had to get a lot of footage, and it was just super overwhelming, the entire process. And I'm sure there's some executive dysfunction involved in having that feeling like an insurmountable experience. And despite that, getting good, pretty decent footage, but also feeling like I never wanted to do something like that again. It was just really a lot. But the big thing that happened after that was when it came down to like editing, because filming that kind of stuff, despite its difficulty, was infinitely easier for me to handle than, or to actually do, than the editing. Because filming, there's someone there that needs to have a camera pointed at them and press record, and there's no getting around that fact. If you don't show up, you just don't do the video. Editing though, you can do a lot of you can say your grandma died 12 different people in the area and no one will know. And they'll all grant you that extra week or that extra month or that extra 3 months to not give them what they're paying you to do. And I mean, that started to happen. I would first of all schedule too many projects at once. And then when those projects would be scheduled, I would have paralysis in doing them. I would be waiting for, inspiration to complete these projects. But, I don't know, what I've learned in the past couple years of making YouTube videos is that you can wait for inspiration, but a lot of times the process just needs to start whether you're inspired or not, and you catch it along the way. And it's taken a long time for me to discover that. But also part of that recently has been discovering things about ADHD and then medication for it, along with habits and things like that. But this entire time, I'm just pushing projects off, and slowly the contacts that I have with music videos, they just fall off. The communication falls through, and the contracts fall through in terms of payment. Like, there were stipulations, a lot of these things that you have to deliver this by the deadline, and I would miss these deadlines and I wouldn't get paid, or I would get paid in full, and then by the time it got to a point where it was like this project is not being finished, what's going on, I would just be like, I'll send you whatever you want out of the money, so that you could just charge me for filming, but I'm going to send you the footage as well, and I can't do this thing I can't do this for you, despite saying that I would, and despite setting myself up to, or setting everything up to be able to complete the project. I guess a caveat is something like that, kind of like what I was talking about before. Music videos can potentially be big projects, and doing it all on your own is a lot. But at the same time, something about my unwillingness to reach out and be like a cool guy that's like super masculine and has a big throat, to reach out and either ask for help or be creative in finding ways to manage these projects, and I guess being more honest with myself about going through them. Instead of doing any of that, it's just paralysis, frozen up, terror, fear, of your Instagram DMs, of the people that need something that you promised them. And I mean, like I said, I got fired from jobs in the sense that I would have to pay back, a few $1,000s of a project fee to make sure people who didn't, I don't know, file, not call the police, but just to make, I guess, it right on the project. However much you can do that, because it's not really making it right. They might, accept the return and fee, but that whole time, the process of getting a project out and what you're there for, to make a music video, is you're just being an asshole. You're being an asshole, and it made me feel like an asshole. And I mean, it doesn't matter how much executive dysfunction you have, it's still a dick move, you can empathize and understand all you want with something where these tasks that you should know how to do and you should be able to do, still, your inability to do them still affects people in a way that just kind of sucks, It's like, understanding is good, but when it comes down to it, when people are paying you to do something, when there's a certain level of integrity and responsibility and honesty that you have to have, it doesn't make a difference whether you have executive dysfunction or not, because you just aren't doing that. And I don't know, I think because it's so tied up with the moral element of it, because I'm you're making a promise and you're breaking that promise, it did at the time make me feel like a complete asshole. So much shame, so much feeling wow, I'm faking my way through this. I'm only, doing this for the money, and I don't actually like believe in any of this stuff, or I don't actually engage with the, music beyond doing that. And then when I get to that position, I'm like complacent. It was like a feeling of like, oh, you're just complacent. You just feel like you've made it, and that's why you're playing League right now for the 12th hour of the day. That it's because you think you're a hot shit, and you think you're the best guy, and that's cringe. As opposed to just literally being like, yeah, I am completely stalled in this process in a way that doesn't compute for the average, I guess, or like, what's the word, for the neurotypical person that just has something to do. And maybe there's, procrastination isn't obviously necessity of or necessarily a neurodivergency product, but it is, when it gets to that extreme point of like literally paying people money and having to relinquish, to go back on your, I guess, contracts and things you signed, and just in a general way, just be an asshole as in terms of, or not be an asshole. I'm trying not to moralize it, but that's what it is. I don't know. To speak candidly on it. It doesn't matter, what's going on in my head. But once I eventually just stopped doing that, I think around that time is when I started editing for YouTube. And I think in that, I was editing for a YouTuber called Noel Miller, if anyone knows, one of the TMG guys. And I edited for him for like 3 years. And that process was very, for the most part, it went really well. And even though I hadn't really engaged with things like ADHD, it was still, even though I hadn't tried to even attempted to build a sort of system around that sort of executive dysfunction, I was still able to keep up. And I think a lot of it had to do with the sort of infrastructure in terms of, there was like a producer, Alex, shout out to Alex, who was like, we were all kind of in constant communication. And there was also I don't know, Noel was there was, I think, a certain, this was the most, like, I guess, internet / real IRL famous person I'd ever worked with. And so it was very like, when you get this job, or when you get these, you don't want to squander. It's a really good opportunity. And if you keep working with this person, that's going to be just great for a lot of different things, for your resume, for consistency, for other, connections, I guess, with editing and things. But there were still a lot of times where I would be pushing projects back a lot, and I would complete them mostly out of the drive of like, this is like a really good opportunity type of thing. But it would be scary and difficult, and I would put it off to the last minute, and I'd be, 4 a.m. rendering, hoping to God that the edit, which would be not a great edit, it would be passable, generally, but a lot of these videos would come back with notes. And, for the first 6 months, none of them came back with notes, because I'm going off. I was editing like so much in one of the videos I did, like the video got extreme backlash from the fan base because it was so highly edited and produced, and it was just kind of crazy, like engaging editing and things. And obviously, that, like, when I sent the video, they like really liked it. They're like, yeah, this is great. And then they posted it, and it was like immediately, this is everyone was really fucking pissed at me. And it was because I was so locked in, and I was so ready to perform as well as I could. And it went from that height of pure grind set to a lot of times where I'm pushing stuff back weeks and weeks. And I think eventually we settled on like one video a week schedule, which, thank God, I think he was doing like a lot of comedy touring. So he was just trying to like reel back and do one consistent video a week. And I mean, these videos, from a video editor's perspective, they're not difficult to put together. From an experienced video editor's perspective, there was no animating, they were pretty like rough cuts together, and then compiling assets like screenshots. He'd be reading Reddit posts, and I'd have to like scroll through the assets, just animate that's not even, well, it's kind of like animation, but not like proper, 3D or anything. Um, and I would still put these things off till the night before. Not all of them, Sometimes I'd be feeling inspired, but that's the type of thing where I'm also, bipolar, and so there'd be periods where I'd be like, wee woo, let's go, let's grind, and then at the same time, the sort of debilitating procrastination and intense negative emotions around completing a project would be very, I would be very aware, hyper aware of them. They would be, they would be. So I don't know. I think I've been in a situation in the last like month or so where I'm like very single focused, and it's single focus on work, and that has been really helpful to kind of get into certain patterns and habits of work and distance. What am I trying to say here? Being in an environment like that helps to develop some sort of control over these more debilitating habits or habits that are detrimental to what I'm doing. But that is a rarity to even be able to have like a single space and free time to like work these things out, and also have the ability to like afford medication, because it's fucked right now, Vyvanse shortage, Adderall shortage. You can't get the off label, or what is it called? You can't get the generic, and Vyvanse non-generic is $430 if it's not covered by your insurance. And for the first two, it's still not covered by my insurance, and that's kind of fucked that I am willing to pay that for this medication. But having, I guess, discovered how deeply it affects me in a way that makes me feel like, I don't know, empowered might be an intense word, but it's more like finally being able to get things done, not even in a productive sense, for sure, but in a for what I really want to do, which is write, and film and stuff, but like writing a video essay. I've always really struggled with that. I'm starting to grasp the process of it. I'm finally like really honing in on what I think makes a good video essay, and how I can go through the process of replicating that, and eventually, hopefully, really diving into this world that I'm like very passionate about and that I've always wanted to do. So to my mind, because I can afford it, which is fucking stupid because I just am always fucking around at home, because I can, I'll pay that money, but that is not the case for the majority of people. And for that reason, I guess, there's no real prescription that I can offer, other than a testimony to my experiences of how maybe there's some relation to being fired, or this condition orienting you in the world in a way that doesn't fit, because there's not enough accommodation, or because there's such a demand or a heavy burden, let's say, of continuous work. And I'm still speaking from a place of, I was doing silly like little music videos, not to trivialize it. I was working, but I was doing things that gave me free time. But in like a studio system, if I'm a producer on a music video, if I'm filming, that doesn't fly. That shit doesn't fly. Those are jobs, and you got to show up and you got to perform, let's say, or you got to, like being a production assistant, you have to, the traditional filmmaking or film industry, you don't get to fuck around. And that's the middle ground between, the constraints around me are so loose that it really can enable the worst tendencies to be exaggerated, I guess the word is, as opposed to, I don't know really where I'm going with this. I hope any of that made sense. I know it took me a while to get to the part where I got fired, but I guess the final point on the story is that, yeah, I had to break a bunch of contracts, and I lost, like, I had communications with people, and I am no longer in contact with them. And also, like, at the time, it was like, oh, this person that you could have worked with, and like you could have really together developed artistic portfolios together, and like you are inspired by their work in some ways, beyond like a business opportunity, but an actual artistic opportunity, that you don't have that anymore. And I do think a lot of that was due to sort of the types of behaviors that I, what is the word, that I do, I guess, related to having ADHD. So I don't know, just wanted to do that. Like I said, sorry for no chore footage, but this is still something you can listen to and go off and on to your day with great righteous anger or whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks to the patrons. Shout out. RIP shout out. And hope you're doing well. I'll see you when I see you.